If you are currently leveling up your Django skills with this tutorial is part of a free YouTube playlist. The link to the whole playlist is in the video description. Now, if you love this tutorial and playlist, then you might also like to check out the whole course, Django Database ORM Mastery on Udemy. The link to the course, which should provide the best price, can be found in the video description. In our most recent module on the topic of structural testing, we focused on understanding and implementing strategies to ensure the integrity and robustness of our database structures. We started our journey with this database design. We went ahead and implemented this design utilizing Django models. We then developed a set of structural tests related to table and column validation. This was essential to ensure that the database schema or Django models aligns accurately with the design specification and application requirements. By creating a design specification and then implementing that in Django and then using structured tests to verify that our models validate against our design specification, this can prevent potential data integrity issues, can enhance performance in some cases, and ensures seamless integration with the application logic. By generating these structural tests, what we did see is it did help us prevent any potential data integrity issues through simple mistakes we may have made from trying to replicate the specification in our Django models. And even if you don't choose to implement the structured tests that we generated, what it is providing you is a set of guidelines as to what to consider when you're designing the specifications of your Django models and implementing them within your Django project. So now in this module, we're going to think about expanding these structural tests. Now, the reality is that there's a whole range of different structural tests that we can build for our database. And at this point, we don't necessarily have any need to fully implement all of these tests, but maybe later along the design process, we can go ahead and iterate over structural testing and think about these different types of structural tests that we can perform. In this module, we're going to expand testing in two ways. First of all, we're going to generate tests related to function or procedure testing, or in our case, Postgres triggers that we implemented in the previous module. And in addition to that, we build a small range of tests to ensure that our database or database tables is assigned to the correct PostgreSQL schema. We haven't implemented schemas yet. That is the first topic in this module. Now, in addition to that, we have another variable that we need to consider. We are no longer testing our Django models. We are testing the database structure after it has been migrated to a database. Now, typically, when we are testing a database, we don't typically use a production or development database. We're going to build an isolated testing environment, a replica database, which is going to allow us to test changes, updates in an environment that mimics the production database without affecting the actual production data. Ultimately, by building a replica database, that of our actual database, this is going to help prevent any unintended disruptions that might be caused by running tests on our live production database. So our goal is to build a pipeline whereby we initiate Pytest. One of our tests will require a test database, therefore it initializes the container. So we're going to be utilizing Docker API. This is going to provide us all the tools for us to programmatically build and manage containers. So we're going to use the Docker API to build a container. Our Postgres database is obviously going to be installed on that container. So once that has been initiated, we then want to go ahead and we're going to need to migrate all of our Django models to that new database in that test container, or that test database in the container that we created. Once the migration has finished, we then need to go ahead and then run the tests. Once the tests have been completed, we then need to roll back and remove the container and any other resources that were generated to run the tests, thus returning back to the initial state before the tests were run. So by the end of this module, we will have an automated approach for creating a test database, migrating data in preparation to then run a range of structural tests. And then on completion, to roll back to the initial state before the container was created.